Welcome to this SpeakerNet News program. Today, our topic is crafting and marketing your published book. And our expert on this is Robin Speculand. Now let's join Rebecca Morgan as she speaks with Robin.
Let me introduce our guest expert today, Robin Speculand. Robin is a global expert in strategy and digital implementation, and a keynote speaker, facilitator, and author of 9 books. We've asked Robin to share his strategies and tips for creating and marketing your book, as well as publishing and the different options for you and pros and cons. He lives in Singapore, so he's up early to be with us today. So Robin, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
It's a delight. We have not done this virtually. We've seen each other in person a few years ago, but haven't done this virtually. So our audience is very interested in what you have to say about getting your book written and published and marketed. The last part is usually the hardest part, but let's focus for a few minutes on the first part. What is your experience about the most effective way to write a book?
Rebecca, thank you. Ken, thank you for the opportunity to join you. And let me just share, to answer your question, I'm actually going to share a few slides this morning.
Okay, great.
And as you look at the first picture, I chose that one because you know it even better than myself that writing a book, you got to be slightly nuts because of the time, effort, energy, and commitment it takes. So what I'd like to share, I put together a few slides to focus on what it takes. So let me just kick that off, okay? And ask everyone who's joining us, work with me for just a moment. You've been sitting at your desk for almost 12 months. You've gone through the manuscript 125 times. You've worked with the editor or your publisher. You're finally got the image you want for the cover of the book. You're ready to launch it to the world. And as you take it out there, you're then waiting for the whole world to rush and buy your book. And as most of us authors know, it doesn't quite happen that way. Writing the book is only the first step. And what I'd like to share today is the challenge of why we're publishing the book. And that's the first question, Rebecca and Ken, that I ask an audience or an individual when they ask me for advice on publishing. What's your preferred reason for publishing? Now, for some people, it's about getting their book out there. They just want to have a book so they can say, I'm an author. Because the word author comes from the Greek, which means authority. And that makes you an authority in your subject. For others, they've really got a statement, a passion on something different they want to share, and they want to get that message out. For others, it's on their bucket list. So there are many different reasons why people want to publish. And I'm going to address how you can make that happen. But let me kick off with just, I think I put together 4 teaser questions about publishing books, which, Rebecca, with your 28 books, you're going to get this easy. But for some of the others, they'll take a bit longer. So the first question is, when crafting your title, it's more important than the subtitle. Fact or myth? Thank you. I can see responses. And some have got it, some are not. It's actually a myth. Your subtitle is even more critical because that's the only few words you have to really explain your title. So it's critical that you come up with a great subtitle to support your title. Question 2. After you publish, you can increase your keynote and workshop fee. Fact or myth? Yeah, you got it. It's a fact. As I just said, you become an authority in your subject. You're now an author, and that allows you the opportunity to then be more recognized by your audience and your customers. Question 3, a bit of a teaser. Every book must have a foreword. Fact or myth? Okay, mixed response. It's a myth. Is it a good to have? Absolutely. If you've got somebody who is recognized and can really do a good forward, but it's not a must-have. And question 4, publishing a book makes you a thought leader. Yeah, it's a myth, okay? Not automatically, just because you've published a book, do you become a thought leader in your subject. It's very much about the content and quality of your book. So Rebecca, Ken, it's an absolute delight to join you. What's this morning here in Singapore? You've kindly introduced, I'm a specialist in strategy and implementation. Just a little bit more background, a couple of slides. I'm originally from Scotland, but Singapore has been home for over 30 years. Here I run 3 different companies all around the field of strategy implementation. I speak on various platforms as well as for various universities. I'm a global ambassador, for example, for the Drucker Forum, sit on different boards. And to date, I've published 9 books and also various white papers, case studies on Harvard, and assessments. And I'm also, just the last slide, I'm co-founder and Hall of Fame from the Speakers Association in Singapore called APSS. Oh, sorry. So Rebecca, with your permission, there are 3 things I'd like to share in the time we have together today. And the first one is something I learned in doing in reverse order. I've had this opportunity to share with authors before, and they're all waiting to see, how do you market your book? And I promised myself, whenever I do this again, I always put marketing first. So I'm going to kick off with some marketing tips for the book, how to effectively reach your audience. And then a couple of slides on how to write effectively and some tips, which I'm sure that you'll be able to join in and share also, Rebecca. And then the launch phase, how to execute. And as part of the thank you for those who are attending today, I've already sent Rebecca a pre, during, and post a PDF that she'll share with you that will summarize that as well. So Rebecca, are we good to go on? Okay, all right. So 3 chapters to share this morning. The first one is your marketing strategies. As I said, everyone last time said, that's the chapter we're waiting for. So I thought, okay, let me put that first. Okay. What's wrong with this image? Now, this was an image of a person, and hopefully I should cover the name, but I can't see it myself, who was promoting their book on social media. And they were so delighted their new book had arrived, and they stacked it up and took a picture. Now, what's wrong with it? Yeah, we can see a couple of guesses, but no one's quite got it. The challenge we have is that nobody cares that you've written the book. What they want to know is, what is the value to you as the reader? And in this image, it doesn't show anything. Sorry, it doesn't show anything of the value. And it's the value that is so critical. In all your social media, your marketing, the first rule of thumb, the first guideline is you have to tell your audience the value from your book. Telling the world, look, I published a book. You feel good, but so what? Is it helping them in terms of working more effectively? Is it improving their leadership? Is it helping them collaborate better as teams? Is it helping them become a better speaker? What is the value to them? So the first and most important positioning is your value. Now, there's a technique I was fortunate enough to learn about 20 years ago when I had media training from the BBC in the UK. And that is building what we call the communication house. And it's very simple, and I'll give you an example from one of my books in a minute, but you can see it from the image. On top, what is the main singular, most important message from your book? Then there are 3 pillars. The 3 pillars articulate your 3 most important supporting messages. Then at the foundation, you prepare your stories, your sound bites, and your supporting facts and arguments. So when you're then presenting your book, especially on social media or in front of the camera, it doesn't matter what you're asked by the interviewer, you know what you want to tell them. So let me give you an example and make this come alive from one of my books a couple of years ago called The World's Best Bank, which told the story of how a small bank in Singapore transformed to the globally world's best. And I was fortunate enough to work with the CEO to tell the story. So immediately you look at the website, and this is the landing page for the book, and it tells you that it's a strategic guide to digital transformation, which many companies and leaders are looking for. So, apologies, I'm out of order. There we go. So, couple of quick tips. One of the most critical things to put together is your landing page, especially for those who are self-publishing, okay? So some quick tips on it. Above the fold, you have to clearly articulate what's the value. Then you want to start building your funnel. So you want to have downloadable chapters. So the first 3 chapters are free for people to read. In World's Best Bank, when I had 2 years of exclusive access to research the book with the leaders, there were times literally my jaw dropped with what amazing work they were doing. So I created something called Jaw Droppers, which after 5 years still has every couple of days people downloading the book. So it continues to build that funnel of people interested in it. You have to create high quality videos with subtitles. Those are 2 basics today, with good sound, high quality, okay? And 3 basics with subtitles as well. Clearly telling the benefits, the value to the reader. And then you can share your story, things like endorsements and orders for corporate. Okay. Now, let's go to the marketing, because that's where most of the questions come from. One of the easiest way as speakers, and thank you, Rebecca and Ken, for the wonderful work you do in the community, is when you're selling, is to include it as part of your contract or your workshops or your workshops. Don't say, and you can buy the book for an extra, but just increase your fee that covers the book for you and say it's complimentary. Many of us do that. It's one of the quick and simple things to do. Another question, Rebecca, that I get asked a lot is, should I hire a PR company? Now, I don't know about your experience, and I'd be interested to hear, but from my side, absolutely not. Especially in a digital world. In the past, you needed to hire potentially a PR company to get people aware, to make people learn, let people know your book is out there, to maybe get into magazines so viewers could see articles, excuse me, on your book. That's no longer required. I was working with one of the new authors in Singapore who was just about to sign a contract for 4 figures with a PR company. And I managed to convince them, rather than spending that amount of money on a PR, who were going to do like a press release. Who reads press releases anymore? To focus on getting eyeballs and building a wonderful landing page and then building the funnel. Today, we all know it's about digital marketing. Things like AI agents are going to help us do this. And you're going to get more value from focusing on your digital than trying to get your article in a magazine, which today is no longer the way. There's a whole new mindset that I'll talk more about as we go through. Another question that I put in that I get asked a lot is, which is the best social media to use? This one has got a short and very simple, straightforward answer. Whichever one you prefer. If you're a LinkedIn person like me, use LinkedIn. If you're more on Facebook or Instagram, it's your choice. But do the one you're comfortable with, because you need to visit it every day, contribute, give feedback. So choose the one you like the most. I've also, in my 20 odd years of publishing, 25 years since I first published, what didn't work. So Rebecca, let me know if you have any to add on to these. One thing I started, I thought, oh, let's start a LinkedIn group about my book and people can come together and I'll build a community. Never happened. And LinkedIn groups themselves has become almost obsolete. I've already mentioned, don't hire a PR company. You're also going to get a lot of attraction when you publish your book, whether self-published or published, from people saying, I just noticed you published your book. Let me support you. I can do this and that for you. Be very, very cautious. Okay. Most of them are a waste of time and money. Okay. So be very careful of people troweling through the new book releases, looking for young authors who jump at every opportunity. I mean, it says Singapore radio, but because I last did this in Singapore, but any radio, is it as high impact as it used to be? No. Does it still have some good impact? Yes, but it's not the return you're going to get like you used to do because we're in a digital world. And the last one is, I don't recommend doing a book signing unless your name is J.K. Rowling. For us lesser known authors, the only people who come to your book signing in a bookstore are typically your good friends and your family. And it's a very demotivating. I've never done one in a bookstore, but you really got to be well known before you sit there with your pen ready for people, the public, to come by. Okay. And then another one that came to me when people saw that I published books was, we can get you on the front, not the front page, sorry. We can get you in USA Today for only $60,000 US. Once again, is that a good investment from my perspective? No. It's a feel good, and if you've got that money to splash around, go for it. But you can spend that 60,000 and a lot less to have much more impact in a digital world.
So Robin, you asked for my
Please, yeah.
So I've had some success. I won't say great amount of success, but some success reaching out to people in the same topic space and inviting them to write a book review. And when they've done that, I've gotten some orders, or to be on their shows, their podcast shows. But I've learned to be very surgical, very focused, because
nice word for it.
Too many of the podcasters are horrible. I left one once. I was booked for an hour, and the two co-hosts were so busy talking about themselves or asking me a question, but then spending 10 minutes answering the question, that finally, after like half an hour, I said, you guys don't really need me here, so I'm going to go, because it was a total waste of my time. It's a total waste of my time. And they had very few followers. It wasn't a big deal. But anyway, being surgical, reaching out to the competitors and offering to review their books if appropriate too, to get in front of the same audience.
And I love that word you've used. I think being surgical is a great term to use. Thank you. And I'll add it to my presentations. Because it is. It's about being very careful about who you select and who you go with and doing your own due diligence. It's not about every opportunity is a good opportunity. I think we both agree on that.
Yes. Okay, go on.
Thank you. So, okay. So how do you use your book? Well, for your marketing, it extends your branding. Most of you have heard the term that your book becomes your calling card. It's an opportunity. It reaches out. The book, for example, I just shared with you, World's Best Bank. I published it 5 years ago, and almost every week, just yesterday, I got an inquiry from a bank in Asia, said they love the book, they want me to come and talk. Right after this, Rebecca knows I'm shooting off to actually speak at DBS to tell their story to another audience, because I do it on behalf of the bank. It creates opportunities for you to extend your brand. So you've got to be very careful about your book. I'm going to keep World's Best Bank as a theme for those, just so you can see how I used it. So I worked with a digital marketing company, and they helped me design my key messages that went out on social media. As I mentioned, I used LinkedIn. So this is how I then took the key messages of the book. Now, the wonderful thing is AI will now do this for you. You upload your manuscript into whatever AI platform you prefer, and it will articulate and bring out the messages for you. So you don't even need a digital marketing company today. I did this 5 years ago, for example, before AI. But yesterday, one of my more recent books, I was doing some new marketing, and I did it on AI. But the more important thing is that you have a consistent branding that reinforces your book and yourself. So you can see from the cover at the bottom, the black and the red is also the colors of the bank, and that's why I used it. To extend your branding, Rebecca, you've just commented on this. It's an opportunity to reach out to other people's platforms. So, for example, Piyush, who just stepped down after 16 years as CEO of the bank, he and I were nominated for Thinkers 50, which is out of Europe in London. And, gave us an opportunity to then promote the book and share the audience. So they were kind enough to support it. Some other quick tips on what works. I don't know about you, Rebecca. I still see you have to recommend to people they've got to have a good quality photo. I'm not saying mine's, the most handsome, but, you've got to have a professional photo shot. So make sure you've got a good high resolution picture to share, to promote. And then, sorry, Rebecca. Yes, please.
But Robin, it makes me think you only own one shirt.
Oh, it's the same one. You had to tell everyone.
Sorry.
I'm the Steve Jobs. No, how's that for serendipity? There you go again. So once you've got your image, you must also then use it and change your banners. So surprisingly, a lot of people forget to do this, but your banners on your social media are critical. And there's a skill and an art to getting the right banner. Now, depending where you are on your own journey, sometimes you need to put more material into your banner, supporting. Fortunately, in my career, I'm recognized as one of the thought leaders in my subject. So, one very clear message: what's the value of the book to you? This is one of my newer books, Transform with World-Class Implementation. Less than 5 words, or 5 words, very succinct, very clear, very clean. But, if you're not sure about banners, have a look at some of the people you like, who you follow. Have a look at their social media for examples. A couple more on marketing. Build a platform. Now, today, ecosystems are what we call the new business frontier. Ecosystems come together where companies offer to connect with other companies. So the simple example is you look at Uber. You book a restaurant, or you order your meal on Uber. How does it connect with the restaurant that you're ordering from? That's using what we call open APIs. But what it does is it builds an ecosystem. today, for us authors, you can also build an ecosystem. So don't just offer your book, offer an experience. I'll say that one again. Don't just offer your book, offer an experience. So for example, online assessments, foreign language translations. World's Best Bank next month comes out in its 7th language in Arabic. Do book sets. So the book I just showed you, Implement, in a few months' time, I'm launching what I'm calling the trilogy of implementation, which includes 3 books, all focused on the subject. Have a video vault. So go into the studio, create short, sharp videos, less than 3 minutes, with high quality subtitles and good sound. And have a video vault. And I've had people purchase the video vault, and it has a learning manual that goes with it, how to use the videos. Online courses. So a lot of people go, use LinkedIn Learning or other platforms to then build a course. Start to bring your community together and stay the course, meaning keep working at it. So here's an example for World's Best Bank. This was the ecosystem I built for the book, and every single one of these were sold around the world. So I didn't just sell the book, I sold the experience. And it created multiple revenue streams from the book. Okay. So you can see the keynote, the box set. I published it, became a Harvard case study. There's an online course on the subject. The video vault I mentioned. I had 2 assessments, one for companies, one for individuals, and also a 1-day course that was also offered virtually. Okay. Last couple of slides on marketing. Dory had an article that came out in Harvard a couple of years ago. I've updated the QR code for people to scan. Comments that it's much easier to sell your book to people who are already aware of it and are clamoring for your content rather than suddenly having to promote it to the world on launch day. Translating what Dory's saying is use your network. Connect with them, leverage your network to sell the book, and you can scan the QR to get the article from Harvard. What works best? I'm going to say it again. What's the value of your book? What will people get it? What's the singular most important message? Be very clear about it. Again, we have a powerful landing page. Think about creating case studies. When you write a book, one of the ways to increase the sales is to use your clients and build in their stories. And that's how actually the initiative to do the book on the bank in Singapore came about. So that one's all about them. But if you're talking about a subject, work with your clients, approach the CEO, ask him or her to tell their story. Then they will buy the book for their employees because they're mentioned in it. Upgrade your marketing. Canva AI is just one example, but there's so many wonderful tools now. You can really, for very low investment, come up with wonderful marketing. I'm not very good at this. I've been fortunate to be nominated for different awards and won them, but put your book forward for awards to get recognition and leverage your network, as I mentioned. The videos, create clear videos. Amazon, when you launch your book, and they offer a 99-cent promotion on your ebook, use it. It's a great way to get the initial marketing out there. QR codes are now accepted globally, so have easy to use QR codes. I shared with you branding your PowerPoint. So part of your branding, use your PowerPoint as well, consistent with the book. And for the Rebecca, I don't know if you know this one. Just a few days ago, I was notified by Amazon that one of my books that I published in August last year, Implement, was acceptable for Amazon Audio. And it took me all of 4 minutes and no investment to create the audiobook on AI. Now, previously, World's Best Bank, I went to I didn't have the bandwidth, so I hired a voice specialist to read the book. I had to go to studio to then read the introduction, to then send that over. I had to check each of the audio readings. The whole process took 4 to 6 months and cost me over $4,000 US. And last weekend, I produced the audiobook for my newer book in 4 seconds, basically, on using AI. So that's a wonderful new tool available on Amazon. Had you seen that one, Rebecca?
No, did they use your voice, your cloned voice?
No, it's an AI voice.
No. Well, Descript will actually clone your voice if you want, and then it will read it in your voice.
Yeah, and you can do it that way. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Okay. So I spent a bit more time on the marketing, Rebecca and Ken, because that's where most of the questions are coming from and what most people ask on. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 are a lot less in terms of the content, but just I want to share some tips for the audience, and then we can have a discussion. So these will take about 10 minutes, 5 minutes each. So Chapter 2 is how do you write effectively? Well, first question is, when should you write a book? And the answer to that is only when you've got something of value to truly say. Because going through a book, whether you go with publishing or self-publishing or a hybrid, it's a work of passion. And you've got to love it. And you've got to really want to get your message out there. Remember, your book is an extension of yourself. You want to take pride in it. So you've got to be passionate about what you're writing. So if you haven't really got anything to say, that's not the time to start. It's when you really feel there's a message you want to share. Because it's not just about the challenge of getting the book written. You then go on to marketing the book. And as I just shared, for one of my books, World's Best Bank, 5 years later, I'm still sharing the same message at least twice a week with different groups. So you've got to love what you're saying in the book, and you've got to be passionate about it. And I can't emphasize it enough about being clear about the value. Now, what's the right number of words? So a couple of the most common questions, Rebecca, I've put together that people ask me. And I know Rebecca's published 4 times more books than me, so she should actually be running this session, not me. So I know you're going to have a lot of comments in a few minutes. There are different sizes to books. The recommended these days is about 60,000 words. My latest, I can't remember how many words it was, but it turned out to be almost 400 pages, which I didn't realize until we went to print. I just was so passionate about talking about strategy implementation. But we all know smaller books have worked, larger ones have worked. But the key message today is people less time reading. They like, faster, quicker books to read. So the average is about 60,000. Rebecca, does that sit with you? Is that what you recommend?
Well, I usually advise people based on the number of pages, because people are calling it a book, even though it's under 100 pages in a traditional format. And I think that's a booklet. Yeah. So I suggest at least 120 pages, and that's not including the front matter and the back matter. That's the guts of the book. And I also say that means like a 10 to 12 point type, single spaced. So we're not doing 14, 18 point
or 18
double spaced in order, people feel ripped off when they, and it makes you look bad, I think, when you call it a book, when really it's an elongated article that you happen to perfect bind. I just think it detracts from your credibility so significantly, but people are so desperate to have a book. Well, have a good book. Have something you're proud of, not something that they could get online. And it's sad. So yeah,
we're so on the same page. You've got to take pride
rather than the number of words. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
But maybe I can jump in, just share for those who are not as who are looking to get something. The word that Rebecca and I both used are a booklet. You can create smaller work that you're not claiming is a book and it hasn't got an ISBN number and it's in the bookstore, but it's representing your material that can still become your calling card. So if you haven't quite, you haven't yet got the content and enough material for a book that's really going to be, as Rebecca so well said, of quality that you're proud of, then create something smaller, a booklet that you can still use at back of the room or for marketing or in front of your clients.
And it could be called a report or a white paper, depending on what's in it. It just be really judicious about using the word book if it's not what you would find in a bookstore.
100%.
Okay. My 2 cents are done. Go ahead.
These are some of the common questions because I'm working with a few authors right now. And let me just explain for the audience, this is not my day job in any way. I do it just to support other authors in helping them. So one of the other questions, what images can you use? You need to be very careful of copyright. So, you can't, for example, go on Google and download an image. Now, there are plenty of AI image creators today, whether you use Midjourney or DALL-E, whatever. And I'm not quite sure about the copyright. I don't know if you know on those, Rebecca, but you've got to be very careful that you select images. A lot of people will get go on something like Fiverr or Upwork and get an artist to design their own images for them. So there's no issue for copyright, which is what I do. I get people to design my own images, so there's 100% copyright control. Do you have any thoughts on that one, Rebecca?
Yeah, so I take my own photos of the things that I want to illustrate, and then also if you belong to one of the services, like a stock photo service, just make sure you're buying the commercial license. Yes. And make sure that it's clear that you can use it in publications as well as on your slides. And then like Wikimedia has royalty-free images of famous people. So if you want to use a famous person, you can search there. So yeah, there's the jury is still out on the AI generated ones because they're usually components of other art that's out there. So people have been sued. I don't know what the results of any of that is.
Okay. So one of the main questions when you're writing your book is, should you go with a publisher? But there are 2 other options. And Rebecca and I were talking about this in preparation for today. And I've done all 3, which I'm going to share, which is a publisher, self-publish, or hybrid. So let me just work you through. It's a key decision for you. Personally, today, I self-publish all my own books. And the key message I'll share first is that self-publishing, it's 5 times the effort, but 5 times the reward. And I'll explain that in a few minutes. But especially for first-time authors who you don't have the ecosystem or the network to support you, and you're thinking, who do I get to edit? How do I find a proofreader? What about design? What about images? You may want to go with a publisher because they take and they do that heavy lifting for you. So some of the bullet points in front. The great news is the publisher takes care of your book from when you've drafted the manuscript to publication. So they're going to take care of all the steps. They're going to give you an editor. They'll do proofreading. They'll do your design cover. They'll do your layout. What they don't do is market your book. They are not a PR company. One of the first things a publisher looks for is how many followers you have on social media. Because too many authors think, hey, I've gone with a publisher. Your book is one of 100 different products or 1,000 different products for them. And they'll maybe promote it for 2 weeks if you're lucky. But you're the one who has to still promote it. But they'll do the heavy lifting, especially if you haven't got that network to help you get the book out. They'll offer you an advance payment, which can be anything from $500 to $5 million, depending on who you are. I worked with one publisher and they gave me an editor and I did the first chapter with the person and their comments were so bad, I rejected the editor. Key takeaway here is you can reject your editor with your publisher. Don't just accept the person they give you. They have to understand and be able to give value to the book and the editing. Now, this one is critical, and one of the authors recently tripped up on this. They had not done it. You need to make sure that if you go with a publisher, what you're giving them is the rights to your book. And you want to make sure that within 2 years, the rights for those books go back to you. Because after 2 years, your publisher is not going to care about your book anymore. But you still do. And you might want to update it or make changes or add new stories. And if the publisher owns the rights, you cannot do that. So make sure that within 2 years, you get the rights of the book back. And then once again, they're not your marketing company. They're your publisher. So there's a very clear distinction. But the biggest advantage, especially for newer authors, is they take care of the whole process for you. But other people, like myself, prefer self-publishing. Now, it's 5 times the revenue, but 5 times the work. Because you're controlling and managing every step of the book. Therefore, you have to be passionate about it, because you're going to live and breathe it. You need the book ecosystem. So I'm fortunate I've had the same editor, Barbara McNichol, for over 20 years. I worked with Pam in the US, my proofreader. I've worked with the same designer and page layout for 10 years now. So I've built that up, but it took time. The other advantage is you control everything. You decide on the cover, you decide on the layout, you decide on the marketing, how it's going to be distributed. So that's another advantage. There's also a third option today that people use, which is a hybrid, which is you create your manuscript, you have it edited and proofread, and then you hand it over, and they will take your edited manuscript and then do the page layout, the production, and create the book for you, and they manage it from there. And this is another alternative. I worked with one hybrid out of New York for one of my books. Okay. Rebecca, anything you want to add to that?
So I think Barbara McNichol has retired, hasn't she, Robin?
Yeah, she's semi-retired. She kept on a small handful of people, of which I was fortunate that Barbara, just the other day, she's still editing for me. And yeah, so
You're
she's
lucky,
semi-retired.
She'd rather
But she's
be
not
out
taking, you're right, she's not taking on new work. It's only from
Right.
the small handful she kept on board.
And the hybrid, is that Susan Friedman that you're working with in New York?
No, it was someone else.
Okay, so Susan Friedman does that where she has all the different services that you can buy independently, or she has packages to help you launch your book.
And I guess the important question for those on the listening and watching is, how much support do you need? And then work out what you want to achieve with the book.
And Robin, I think we should point out, though, that the publisher element, if you're going with a mainstream publisher, it's nearly impossible for a new author to get accepted by them. And the advances are down to almost nothing. And as you point out so aptly, we think with going with a big house, they'll publish, they'll market it for you. And that's just not the case in most cases. So to your point, self-publishing for a lot of us, since we have a market where we can sell them, as you so wisely suggest, as pre-sell them before your speeches. The SpeakerNet News did a study a number of years ago to find out how our market, how our readers sold the most books, and whether it was published by another publisher or self-published. Absolutely, it was at their speaking engagements, either before pre-sell or back of the room. That was by far the most books sold. So I've had 3 of my 28 published by other people, and I said, well, if I'm doing all this work, why am I promoting it, and why am I settling for 10% of the royalties? So I've gone self-publishing, and you're right. And I think it's actually 5 times the work, but 10 times the revenue, because you can make so much more per book than you get in royalties from a publisher who's not going to do much. And I've had the ones I've had with publishers, they've changed the cover to things that I hated, and
And you've no control.
I had no say in that at all. And then, so the 2 bestsellers that have told 250 each, they still sell.
Sorry, Rebecca, you said that very quickly, but that's 250,000 copies.
I did.
Not 250,000. So I just want
now,
to.
others of the 28 have sold 250, but they have sold 250,000. Anyway, they want me to buy. They're still selling, even though they were published, Robin, in 1988 and 89.
Wow,
they're still selling.
That's
amazing. But they want me to actually buy back my rights. So in the initial, I was a kid, publishing that, I didn't know to ask for my rights back, like you so wisely told people. So now they want me to purchase the rights back.
Oh, wow.
No thanks. Okay, I interrupted you.
No, not at all. It's all value. Okay. For those self-publishing, I want to make sure you know about Ingram Sparks. Now, for those listening in America, yes, Amazon's your first platform. For those of us living outside of the US, especially, for example, myself in Singapore, Ingram Sparks, you've got to know about. Because many countries, Amazon doesn't have a representation. So, for example, I live next to Indonesia, the 4th biggest country in the world. They don't have Amazon. Ingram Sparks is an alternative platform, but you don't have to choose. You can do both. But one quick tip, if you're self-publishing, you first load on to Amazon and then to Ingram Sparks. We've learned that one the hard way, because once you have the configuration for Amazon for your design of your book, it's then compatible with Ingram Spark, but not necessarily vice versa. But if you're not aware, visit Ingram Spark, and I'm going to give you a hyperlink in a few minutes. Some quick rapid tips. Switch your phone off when you're writing and your email. Now, I'm a morning person, so I'm up first thing in the morning. I will switch my phone and the email off, and I focus on you. When you're interrupted, it can take up to 23 minutes for your brain to get back to what you were thinking before the interruption. So eliminate interruptions. Another quick tip, early on, decide if you can, and you've got the title of your book, purchase the domain name. How to use Gen AI. Rebecca, you've said this yourself, the jury is still out in terms of images, but today, in terms of doing your writing, it's even tougher for new authors because people can go on Gen AI and get summaries. So you've got to be adding wisdom, not just intelligence. Wisdom is you're showing the value. How do you use this? How does it integrate into somebody's life, business, or leadership? Okay. So intelligence is cheap, but wisdom is expensive. So focus your book on the wisdom. Want to reinforce again that your book is your brand. And Rebecca, you've said it so well, an extension of yourself. Another couple of quick tips. Be unbelievably proud. When someone says, I got your book, you really want to go, yeah, be very proud in your content. And remember, you're not publishing a book, but creating marketing opportunities. Okay. I'm just going to keep us on time. So I want to do a couple other quick tips for people who have joined us. If you're self-publishing, and 99 Designs is one of the good ones to use, and I updated the QR code. So 99 Designs is great, where you submit and go for the paid, and you'll get 20 or 30 different designers all giving you book covers, and you can choose and go with the one you like. This is the link for Ingram Sparks, who also has the ultimate guide to master your book cover design. And I've given these to Rebecca, so she'll share with them. Jane, Rebecca, do you know Jane well? Are you connected? Jane Friedman? No, okay. So Jane does wonderful work sharing for authors the challenge of publishing. Strongly recommend following Jane. Okay. And one quick tip on the writing is a page a day. So if someone says, how do you keep writing? And Rebecca, I'm sure you get that question all the time. How do you manage to write 28 books? You start with a page a day. And what you'll find is if you commit to a page a day, some days you'll write 5, 6, or 10 pages. Other days you'll only write one. But once you sit down and get started, that's the big challenge. So start small, a page a day. And last comment on the tips for writing. It will take longer than you anticipate. There's going to be, rewrites, republishing, re-editing, whatever. It's going to take longer. And Rebecca's smiling as well. Okay. So chapter 3, I'm just going to go very quickly through so we have some time to have a couple of questions, Rebecca. Because I'm going to share this. I've sent this already for Rebecca to share with everyone who has joined us. One of the newer opportunities today is POD, which stands for print on demand. Now, only in the last couple of years, POD has improved tremendously so that it's now a quality and a binding that is reasonable enough to send out. So, for example, I got an order from South Africa the other day for 45 books. To send them from Singapore was going to cost more than they would sell them for. So instead of that, I'm doing a print on demand through Ingram Sparks. Amazon also does it. Ingram Sparks is a little bit better quality of their POD, but it doesn't matter. The point is that now you don't need to buy 10,000 copies of your book. You can do a minimum run of even 500 or 1,000 with a printer so that you have your own stock for when you're speaking to sell back of the room or to give to clients. And then for other orders, you can simply do one at a time, print on demand. And then one of the last things, this is it, I'm going to wrap it up with, is I put together, because I get asked the questions, what should I be doing before, during, or after? And I've put together promoting your book, launch success. And let me just reinforce my business. I run 3 different companies in Singapore. It's nothing to do with books and marketing. So this is just my sharing. This is an example of what you'll get. So I've highlighted, 3 quick tips to end with. Ask for endorsements. Make sure you have endorsements from from good people to reinforce your book. When you launch it, quick tip, solicit your network. Okay, minimum is 20 Amazon reviews for your book. You need to get support for the marketing distribution. And then in post, a quick tip, develop a new keynote based on your book to then promote it. Okay. So those are the tips. And as I mentioned, Rebecca's got them that she'll share after. So Rebecca, let me just stop it there. And we've got perfect. There we go. 5 minutes. Because I feel you should be doing this session, not me. So what advice would you also share?
Well, I was going to ask you, you didn't mention lightning source. So sometimes I always price both Ingram Spark and Ingram Lightning Source to see which is a better, even though they're both owned by Ingram. And sometimes I get a better price with Lightning than I do from Ingram.
Oh, you just taught me something new because I don't know Lightning Source.
Yeah, they're the bigger company. So Ingram Spark is specifically for small publishers like us. And they have good support and they're very helpful. But again, I always price them, and I also price with it's called Snowfall Press out of Colorado. But the beauty of what you're talking about with the POD and under the Ingram umbrella is they will have printing services. Like they probably had one in South Africa when, that printed your 45 books, and then you didn't have to ship them from Singapore. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no, I
that's
looked at that, but it was still cheaper on Ingram Sparks to print them in London and ship them than in South Africa.
didn't haven't. Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess we don't assume. Check it out.
Yeah.
So that's good. And then I want to go back to something you said at the beginning, which I want to just give another option. You said, when should you write a book? When you're passionate about something. And I agree with that part. And I also agree, or I want to throw in the mix, that it helps if you have a specific engagement coming up that you want to have a book for, and that will get you off the dime. That will get you moving. So I don't remember what year it was, but I came to Singapore to speak at the big HR conference where there were maybe 5,000 human resources professionals, and I was doing a couple breakouts with 500 each in them. And they said, well, do you have a book related to your topic that we could sell in the bookstore? And I didn't at that time. So, oh baby, did I go through all the articles I'd published on my topic, all my blog pieces, and I put together a book, actually two books because they were different topics, in a week because I'd written so much of the guts.
Well, hang on. We don't want to create a false illusion that you can publish a book in a week here. I mean, you're unique. That's an outlier. So let's manage expectations. That's fantastic.
But notice, Robin, I didn't say I wrote the book in the week because I had written.
You pulled the content together. Yeah.
90, and I just had to do the segues and put it in some format that made sense. So I don't claim that you can write one in a week, although I did do one, but that was, again, I had other and my very first book, the one that's now sold 250,000 to them, I did in 3 weeks. Because
we're going to call this session the Confessions of Rebecca.
I don't want the confession. I guess I just want to reinforce what you're saying is, yes, it's important to have passion. Add to that, hey, have a date. Like if your speaking engagement is in September, your drop dead date is August 1st or July 31st, so back it up.
But I'd say even earlier because you're going to have delays. And
you're going to have somebody like Barbara Nichols, so you're going to have a professional edit it. Do not say, well, I was an English major, I could do this myself. And do not do that. I have gotten books from self-published authors that I said, how many of these do you have? And he'll say 1,000 in the garage. I said, take these immediately to the dump because they were so riddled with typos and bad grammar. And I said, this does not represent you well. They hated me, but anyway.
Can I throw on a quick tip on top of that one?
Yes, go ahead.
Don't use the same person to proofread who edits. I made that mistake 1 year. Have a different proofreader so you avoid what Rebecca's talking about, because the book's an extension of you. And the reason she's saying dump it is because it's decreasing your brand.
Yeah, exactly. So those are my 2 cents. We got 1 minute left, but you've given us so many really good guts of each of those 3 elements. And I just wanted to add on to a couple of them. Not that I disagree with them, but I want to add on to a couple of my 2 cents. So Robin, thank you for sharing so much detail and giving us your time. I know if I was going to go give a keynote in an hour, I don't think I would be on a webcast like this, but you don't have to change. The good news is you don't have to change to match your brand.
What do you mean change? It's the only shirt I have. You've already reviewed.
You just have to throw on that tan beige jacket.
My beige jacket. You got it.
Say he's on brand. He matches his promo picture. You'll never
I know.
Put on that shirt again without thinking,
on that note.
Or I have 10 of the same shirt.
Hey, if it was good enough for Steve Jobs, what do you want?
Right, a black, I think he had like 50 black turtlenecks. So you probably went to the tailors that I've gone to in Singapore and just said,
you don't have to give away all my secrets on this call.
All right, we are going to let you go do that keynote. And thank you again for sharing so many good ideas. And I appreciate you supporting SpeakerNet News all these years. We appreciate that very much. It's a
delight. And thank you to you and Ken for all the hard work you do in producing it. It's one of the best I recommend for speakers.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, well, we hope to see you in person, either in
Thanks
Singapore
everyone
or
for attending.
sometime soon. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for being a part of this SpeakerNet News program. To find out about upcoming sessions or to see a list of recordings available from earlier sessions, please go to our website, speakernetnews.com.